To publish or to self-publish? That is the question. Now, the other day I had a question from a podcast listener, and they had asked me, should I publish my book or should I self-publish it? Now, I've never traditionally published a book, so I don't know too much about what goes on, but in my own case I would highly recommend going down the self-publishing route. Now, if you do look at going and getting a contract from a traditional publishing company, there is a lot of waiting around, sending your manuscript out to maybe one after another, hoping that finally somebody sees it in a good light and accepts it. But even when it is published, you will find that if there is any marketing to be done, it's not going to be done by them, it's going to be done by you. They are basically just a printing press. They may give you maybe some money for the book, but at the end of the day, if that book is going to do well, it's going to depend more on your efforts than it is on theirs. Now, this is the same also for people who self-publish their books. Unfortunately, sometimes people think the same thing too. If they self-publish a book in the Amazon Kindle store or whatever platform they're planning to use, they think that it's magically going to appear on everyone's Kindle and everyone is going to jump on it and love it. But unfortunately, no. You're going to have to push that book, you're going to have to promote it yourself, and unfortunately some people will never learn that or make the effort to promote their books, and that's why they never do well in them. Now, we've also had stories of people who had gone to traditional publishing companies and been rejected over and over again. You know, two probably big examples are probably the Harry Potter books, and then we have the Chicken for the Soul books. I forget how many times both authors were rejected by publishing companies. It was like in the 20s in some cases before they actually got published. Now, if you can imagine how much time they wasted going around. Now again, self-publishing probably wasn't as big back then, so they didn't have the option of doing it. But if you can imagine if you took your book today and you went around 20 or 30 traditional publishing companies and you got rejected over and over and over again. Now, I don't know how long a process that would be, how long you would be doing this for, but there's going to be a lot of time wasted between you and eventually getting that publishing contract. And another thing then too, if you do look at both of those examples, how popular have those books been? How many millions of copies have those books seen? And I can imagine that probably that first or second traditional published company that rejected it, I'm sure they are kicking themselves right now because they didn't see what was in it and didn't take action on it. And you will find, unfortunately, if you do try and go down to the traditional publishing contract, it depends on who is sitting at the gate that day, whether they are going to let you through or not. Again, I might see a book one day and I could say no. Somebody else might see a book in another company and say yes. So it is more kind of an individual thing, but they're probably looking at the market, they're probably seeing what is selling well, and I'm sure that they'll probably try and find books that are kind of mirroring the success that's going on in the book charts, because at the end of the day they are a business and they are looking for success. So they're going to try and reduce whatever gambles they're about to make with your book as low as possible. So unfortunately, sometimes maybe you might go to them to the wrong time. Your book might be a little bit early to the market, and unfortunately you might get rejected because of that. So that is why I recommend going down the self-publishing route. Not only is it faster, you know, I can write a manuscript, I can have it finished today, I can have it up in the Amazon Kindle store probably within the next 24 hours. So there's no waiting around. And you can see straight away when you do release that book, you can see straight away if there is an audience there for it or not. You will find if you do a little bit of promotion, maybe drive some ads to it, if that book starts to get a bit of momentum, if the reviews quickly come in, if people start sharing it around and talking about it, well then you know you're on to a good thing. Whereas if you had waited for the traditional publishing contract, I don't know how long that would take, or you know, the whole process, but I'd imagine at the end of that then there's a longer period of time before you will actually know if that book is going to be a success or not. But at least when you self-publish, you can have that book up in 24 hours or so, and you can see straight away how it's progressing over the weeks, and that time's not wasted. Now, another thing about self-publishing is that there is no one between you and your book. You know, if I maybe released a book and maybe after a while it wasn't doing well, and I said to myself, well, maybe it's the book cover, I'll test the book cover, and I go and get a book cover created, I can change that in an hour or so. Whereas a traditional published book, you know, once it's out there, it's probably a slower process to get them to maybe have a look at the book covers. Now, these companies probably have their own book designer, so you're probably guaranteed that you will have a good looking book from the very, very start. But you can't really test anything like that quickly. You can't test book covers, you can't test maybe change the title of your book. Maybe the title of your book is holding you back, and maybe if you change that, or maybe if you changed the book description, or maybe the keywords that you're going after in the Amazon Kindle store, you can quickly change those. So all of those things could be changed in a matter of moments, and they can affect your sales. Whereas if you are with a traditionally published company, things probably move a lot slower, and it takes longer to get things done. Whereas if you do it yourself through self-publishing, you can change all those things in a matter of moments, or a matter of hours, or a matter of days, and you'll see straight away if it works or not. Now, another thing as well too, if you are self-publishing, the only person between you and that reader is Amazon, or whatever platform you are selling that content on. Unfortunately, if you go down the publishing route, there's you, there's probably an agent, there's probably the publishing company, and then there's your reader. So there's a couple of steps between you. And I remember hearing before, Dan Kennedy said, the more people that are between you and your customer and your reader, the more weak your business is, because you have all these things in the middle that could go wrong. Anybody could do something wrong, and it's going to affect your income. So the less people you have, or the less steps between you and your reader and your customer, the better. So if you can imagine somebody who is self-publishing, the one person between them and their reader is Amazon, or whatever the platform is that they are using. Whereas traditional publishing, you have a lot of departments, you have a lot of people between you and your income, and any one of those things could goof up, do something wrong, and it's going to affect your income. So that's another reason why I recommend you to go down the self-publishing route, is that there are less people between you and your reader. So you're more in control, you can test out ideas quickly, you can find out if the market likes what you're doing, and you can build an audience of your own. Now, if you do want to go down maybe the traditional publishing route later on, the easiest way to get a contract is to go to them with an audience. Now, for example, if you have a huge Facebook following, or if you have a huge following on Twitter, or any of the platforms, and they are really engaged, or if you have a blog of your own, if you have a large email list, if you have some strong asset like that, again, the email list is probably the best one to have. But if you have a strong asset like that, and you can prove to that traditional publishing company that if they give you a contract, you're guaranteed to sell a certain amount of books, they are going to jump at that, because they are just pushing on an open door. There's no gamble, so the less gamble they have to take on you, the better. So you will find sometimes that people with a huge following on social media, who probably haven't been looking for a book, maybe a celebrity or something like that, who has taken off and they've exploded all over the place, you will find maybe some of those companies will go to them and say, would you be interested in writing an autobiography? Would you be interested in writing some kind of book? And we'll publish it for you, because they know that that audience is there on tap, and as soon as that book goes out, they know it's going to be an instant bestseller, or it's going to sell a lot of copies and it's going to make them money. Whereas if you just turn up being, a Joe Nobody, there's a chance that they will probably turn you around, because you haven't got that audience. So I would recommend, if you are thinking of going down the traditional publishing route, stick with self-publishing first, test your book ideas out, find your audience, build that audience, and then, as I said, when you have a big enough audience, and you can guarantee that when you hit the publish button on a book, you're going to sell a lot of copies of your book, you will find traditional companies will probably come to you, and they will be offering you contracts, rather than you having to force yourself on them and being rejected. So again, at that stage, if you're probably making enough money, would you really want to go down the traditional publishing route if you're making plenty of money with the self-publishing one? So give that some thought. Maybe if you are considering, well, should I sit around and wait for somebody to come knocking on my door, or should I just take the initiative and go and release my book today and start selling it straight away in one of the platforms? In my own case, or the advice I would recommend anybody in my family, or anybody who I cared about, I would say go through the self-publishing route. Now, again, if you're self-publishing a book, make sure that you have a good book cover on it. Have a look at the ones that are in the same niche or genre as yours, and try and mirror what that book cover is. Again, I wouldn't recommend creating your own book cover. Go to somewhere like Fiverr.com or Upwork, or do a search for people who design book covers and hire somebody to do a good book cover for you. And then as well too, the interior of your book, make sure it's well formatted, make sure somebody edits it. Now again, you can go to Upwork or go to Fiverr or something like that, and you can hire an editor to go through the book and clean it up and make sure there's no grammar mistakes or no spelling mistakes or anything like that that is going to make it look like an inferior book. So at least when you do go to the market, it is a good solid book that you are releasing. So get all that sorted first before you do actually self-publish. You know, the fact that you can self-publish sometimes means that anyone with a pack of crayons can scribble in a document and release it and put it out there, but that's not going to do you any good. You need to think of along the same lines as a professional author would. So tidy up your content and then put it out, but go down that route first. Sell your books that way, prove that you have an audience, tested ideas, and then you will find over time, if you want to go down the other route at any stage, maybe it's a vanity thing, maybe it's the fact that you could be seen as a traditionally published author. If you're looking for a title like that, well then I would go after that then. But in the beginning I would go down the self-publishing route and take it from there. So I hope that's answered that question for that person, or I hope even if you've had that maybe question in your own mind, I hope it's probably cleared it up for you. Now if you'd like to ask me a question like that person did, you're very welcome to reach out to barryjmcdonald@gmail.com, and I'll have a look at maybe answering that question in an upcoming video. And if you'd like to know more about me, or you'd like to know where these videos and podcast episodes are, if you want to go to writecom.com, that's WRITECOME.com, you'll find the content all over the web. And if you go to the website, we have a great free report at the moment which is called Words to Wealth, and in it I'm going to show you 10 ways anyone can make money from their words. I'm going to show how anyone can make money from the keyboard at home, and you don't even need to be a great writer to do that. So if that intrigues you, or if you'd like to put that report to the test, jump on over to the site, download it and give it a go, and let me know what you thought. And as always, thanks for sharing your time again today. Take care and have a great day. Bye bye.